Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to this episode of the podcast, Not Quite Strangers. My name is Valerie Hope. I'm your host, and this is a wonderful opportunity to inspire curiosity, shift perspective, and also perhaps, really demystify this idea of strangers coming together to have meaningful conversation. Although today's not actually strangers, they're really, truly not quite strangers. I have here three, I don't know, can I call you guys BFFs? Is that appropriate? You're like BFFs.
I'll take it.
They're all my bachelor parties, so technically, yes. I mean,
Technically, yes. I guess I don't know if I'm included in the BFF category with you guys, but that's okay.
You're a secondary, tertiary BFF.
Like, okay, I'm a secondary. Fair enough.
I'm kidding.
Alternate, whatever,
Teasing.
She's on the bench. She's on that.
She's on the bench, right?
I'm like an alternate. Okay.
Right.
I'm not going to take it personally. You guys are here because I thought it would be a fantastic opportunity for my audience to see what true, deep male friendships are like. Now, I know all three of you, and I've known you all for years. I'll just go around the circle real quick. Abhijit, you and I met like 15 years ago?
More than that, yeah.
More than that? Oh my God.
2006, yeah.
Yikes. Okay.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Abhijit and I have known each other for a long time. And we used to hang out. We were BFFs at one point, Abhijit. We used to hang out all the time. We'd played tennis. We'd gone to movies, played soccer. Like, yeah.
Salsa dancing.
Yeah. Yes. You were really, we all lived in the same area. So we were involved a lot. I met your sister and your parents.
Yep.
So we've been in contact quite a bit for over the years. So that's how we know each other. And then I think, who did I meet first? James, I think I met you next, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I invited you and Sammy to Cafe Madrid, and that's kind of
that's where it was. Yes.
With Manal.
And Manal,
right.
yes.
Right.
So then James and you and I met because you were friends with my brother and my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And Anela, and you guys had a nice little, I don't know, a bookstore bond.
Yes, exactly.
And then somehow you and I connected through them. And then you invited Sammy and another friend, Manal, along.
That was in 05, James,
What's
right?
I think that was 2007, maybe.
It was later,
yeah.
But and then
maybe 2008.
Sammy, you and I, well, that time that James introduced all of us, and we just hit it off so quickly. And then
we met at Manal's place.
Yeah, no, we met at Cafe Madrid.
That was the first one was Cafe Madrid, but we hung out like 4 weekends in a row or something.
Oh, okay. I could remember.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. No, we met Abhijit. at Manal's a year later.
Okay.
Like Christmas.
Oh. So
December. Yeah.
So I introduced Abhijit to you guys.
That's right.
Yeah. Although technically I met Abhijit through Eduardo, through your brother.
I think I
he invited us. I think he invited Eduardo. He invited Abhijit to join us at Royal Thai. That's the first one I remember.
Ah, okay.
And then I remember us talking about using our old laptops as DVD players. That was one of the conversation topics we bonded on at the beginning there.
And I was fascinated. James was doing a PhD because I was like, oh man, I walked away from my PhD. This guy is committed to what he's doing. Right.
Yeah. Glutton for punishment. Yeah.
And then, so how did you, so obviously we see the spark and where it started, but I'm curious about how did you guys all connect? Like obviously the DVD, laptop thing, but then Sammy, how did you?
Sammy and I used to play tennis, right? Remember, Sammy?
We did, but we actually met at Manal's place that potluck Thanksgiving.
That's right.
And we all just clicked.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a matter of, oh, this is cool. Let's connect. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
Like it is in the Mediterranean, like it is in Spain and Portugal, where you bump into somebody. Oh, hey, do you smoke? Can I have a light? Hey, where are you from? You get to know each other. And next thing you know, you're hanging out the next week and the next week and the next weekend. That was the vibe we had.
Except there was no smoking involved.
For
everybody who's hearing this.
No smoking was involved. But I mean, when I was in Barcelona, that's exactly you. Hey, do you have a light? Oh, you speak English. Oh, hey, where are you from? I'm from the US. You speak, you meet friends wherever you go if there's a connection.
Yeah.
As opposed to
what was the connection though? Exactly. Like what was it, that thing that you heard or that you did that you were like, oh, I want to hang out with this person? What did you hear or see?
I can tell you from my part, the reason that we're all connected is that we're open conversation about what we do, where we're from, what we've done. Oh, I'm living here. I moved in here from New Jersey. In James's case, James's family wasn't from Dallas originally. I'm drawing a blank now. They're in El Paso. I know that El Paso is the big point, but
Yeah.
James's whole historic connection is that he knows he engages with anybody that has a topic that's of interest to him, right? Whether it's salsa, music, education, Latin, right? Now, like he's sort of, so it was just everybody here reaches out to connect with individuals of like minds, and I felt that was the issue. That was the connection for all three of us. In fact,
I found it really easy to talk to
Yeah.
it was always really easy to talk, so it was fun.
I think
And
a
no
common
surprise.
trait is like being a cheerleader, right? Like even though like, hey, I'm not interested in Latin, I'm excited for James, right? That he's able to not just like learn but teach, right? Same thing, like I don't know a lick of like accounting, right? Or what it takes to actually do that job, but like I'm excited to see Sammy be successful doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty sure like at the time when we met, we were still early on, right? James was in school, right? So there were certain things that he was doing, like what you were doing, ballroom dancing, if I remember correctly.
A little
Right.
bit, yeah.
Tango, I think,
little
right?
bit. It was quite a
Well,
bit.
I eventually it gravitated towards tango.
Tango.
We've met a couple of people through that. We won't mention names, but
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
tango angle.
Oh yeah.
And then there's
To protect the innocent. Yes.
Was that restaurant Samba Room or the whatever room restaurant
Yeah.
on Travis on Travis Street? They'd have like the cheap happy
Oh,
hour.
is Mambo Cafe? Is that what you're talking about, or some?
Maybe it closed. It didn't
But
last. very-
Travis Street is that's more Knox Henderson, isn't it?
like Samba Cafe, and I'm drawing a blank. It's right across from. Anyway, yes.
Villa O was one place where we went to dinner a lot, because they had these
Yes.
special meals for $5 or whatever.
50, yes, correct.
y'all are so cute. I could just say.
Oh no, the food was a big part of this, right? Like
I
just
know.
being able to
We
enjoy
went out. I think that was how we spent most
Food
of our time. We were
and
going out.
movies. We went to a
Like,
lot of
a
movies
lot of
together.
movies. That's
you
right.
know.
True.
Yes.
That's true. Okay, so now, because I am on the bench, right? I'm the tertiary, secondary person here. I'm curious about, because we did a lot of things together. We all had some common friends and we would go in
Yeah.
a huge group. What were the things that you all did separate from the rest of the group? Like the guy stuff. What kind of things did y'all do?
I mean,
Well, I think sometimes it was like movies that we didn't think that y'all would like.
yeah,
Like
like the
what?
Marvel
Whatever,
movies.
Transformers or whatever.
Transformers is one, yeah,
Was
or
it Prince?
like
Yeah, there was like one of those video game movies, like Assassin's Creed or something. Did we go to one of those?
I missed that one. I saw it on TV, but yes, that would be the one. Like exactly, like
I mean, there would be times where we would not include you just because of the time of the night, because it's not polite,
Yeah.
right?
Wait,
Like,
Yeah,
what time are y'all hanging out?
we
Super
call it like
late,
11
dude.
o'clock. Hey, you want to
Yeah.
get? Are you still up? Like,
Oh.
yeah, you want to go out, grab
Yeah.
drinks,
Yeah.
hit a club? We'd go out and
Yeah.
have drinks and mingle and meet and.
But
have a
yes,
good-
you were the best wing woman, Valerie.
I
Best
tried.
yeah.
wing woman, right? You, Kata, like, to be honest, I think like you were not excluded out of much, other than maybe if we did a boys trip, like if we
Yeah.
went for somebody's birthday, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, right?
One other thing we did, at least Abhijit and I think Sammy joined sometimes, we worked out together. Like I
That's
would
right.
drive down to his apartment complex and we'd work out in the gym together.
I can safely say we didn't. I never worked out with either of you. It's the only time
Oh,
I've
okay.
ever- yeah. I did work out with like tennis and
Oh,
some
yeah,
running,
okay.
a
Mhm.
few runs with Abhijit, but never like actual gym time.
Mhm.
I mean, we did go out. Like we remember when one of Kata and Cecile, right? On not Knox, but on Henderson,
Yeah.
right? And all of us met other folks. I
Yeah.
felt like we were the wing guys, if that makes any sense, because they had more luck meeting people in some respects.
Oh yeah,
sometimes,
yeah. We would bring female friends in and they'd all become friends with each other. Yeah.
right? Or the males would come and they ended up chatting with the guys, and like you're like, okay,
Yeah.
great. Like
Yeah.
this is
You
anyway.
guys are all three of you have been very good wingmen too. I'm really curious about, what they talk about bro code, right? There's some bro code. Do you all have an agreement? And you don't have to share anything here that you're not comfortable sharing, but did you all have any sort of agreement about what you would talk about or not talk about when you were in the company of the larger group?
I don't remember us ever having a conscious discussion about that.
No, I just think there's just some
I
topics.
think
The
we
sense
just
of
grew
like,
up
we
in
don't
better
try to make
ways to
people
know.
make our buddies look bad in front of, you
Yeah.
know, because we,
No, and
because
there's some
we, because
things
we
that are
like our
shared.
friends, so we want to help them,
Yeah.
you know.
Or like, yeah, what happened in the bachelor party, although it was all up and up, I don't think we ever shared details. That's what we did. I mean, it was in
Yeah.
right, it was in Scotland. But my point is like, yeah, there's just certain, unless you're asked specifically, you know, you don't really go into details about it, right? And, you know, there's some things that come up in conversation that are personal topics that you would have with your brother, for example, or
Well, I
your
mean,
best friend. That
I
would
think we should ask Valerie this question. What do you actually imply when you say bro code, right? Yes, we never dated the same woman. I can say that. Like,
I thought that's what you were referring to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
like
is that? No,
yeah,
I was just thinking more about the kind of things that you would share in the company and mixed
Oh, yeah.
company, so to speak. Maybe there are probably other rules. I don't know. What are the rules of bro code?
No, like you just mentioned one of them, like you don't date your
Dating.
your best friends, you know, other, you know, experience, like other dates
Exes.
Yeah.
or
Exes
exes
or-
and what,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
or if there was a date, for example, if you knew about it, like, hey, you dated this person, was it like, was there anything like anything intimate? Was it
Yeah.
crazy? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just a few dates. Do you mind? Like, okay, great. Like, if you knew about it, that's kind of an unsaid rule for all guys, I feel like, not just
Yeah.
even acquaintances. Not even acquaintances. If you're friends, you kind of know that, right? Like, hey, Valerie, like even if you were a
Yeah.
girl,
That's
by the
bro
way, I met
code
your
too. I
friend.
think we would, yeah.
I talked to you about it. Like
Yeah.
we talked about this. We ended up dating a few friends. So yeah, hey, do you mind if I ask her out? And it'll be on the up and up and all good, right? Like,
Oh,
it's
when
just
you
a
dated
courtesy.
my friend, yeah. That was a
Mhm.
little awkward, I gotta say. I
Was
have
it
to
really
admit.
awkward?
Well, in the beginning it was, because it was just like, now the group, there's like a little, the energy shift. There's a little energy shift. When it's somebody
Maybe.
new in the group, it's fine. But then when it's
Ah.
already someone in the group, it's like,
Well,
oh,
we did talk about it. We did talk about it. I remember
we
just sitting there
did. I
talking.
remember.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. After that
Yeah.
restaurant, we ate at like the one across from the Dooney that closed down, that Italian place owned by the Pizzeria Taverna, the
Yeah,
Lombardi family. Anyway, again, it all worked
Sammy's
out well.
promoting like all the restaurants.
I know. It's like,
For the
next thing we
record,
know,
Restaurant.
Valerie's podcast is being sponsored by, you know.
Yeah.
that wasn't intentional. I could have said, hey, that place at North Park in the square. Okay, we won't give any endorsements. Good call out, Abhijit. We're not getting
It's
paid for
fine.
this. So
I
you're
don't
totally
mind.
right. I
No,
should
she needs this. She needs this material to go back to them.
Yeah.
Like your,
So she can
your
advertise,
restaurant was
like, get
mentioned 3
AdSense.
times in the
We
15
mentioned your restaurant 5 times.
Okay, then
The other
let's
thing I think about bro code, and I don't think it's relevant to us sometimes, is like, if one of your buddies is doing something you think is wrong and you just
That's
keep your mouth shut anyway. But luckily I haven't ever had to, that's not something that's ever come up. And I think,
y'all never had to call
I think
each
we
other out?
wanted, I don't think we would have become friends if any of us were into doing that sort of thing. Or if, it's either you kind of have to all be into behaving like that, or none of you, or else it, the friendship doesn't really survive, I think.
Hmm.
So I think that's one of the things I like, is that they're just, good, trustworthy guys,
Yeah, I mean, so I think like where Sammy started, right? And what James is also saying, like, we've had open conversations about like how we feel about a certain thing,
Yeah.
right? But you got to respect the other person too, right? I mean, at the same time, like, there's a different opinion, right? And I'm not talking about relationship. I'm just saying in general in life, right?
Yeah.
You could choose to do certain things, and someone could say like, well, is this the right thing for you to do? Is it the best thing for you to do? And you want that environment where you can be challenged,
Yeah.
right, in a conversation. It's like, are you sure you're doing this for the right reason? Or like, you're not jumping into something like, whether it's career or anything else, right? Even a hobby for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because you guys all come from different backgrounds, right? Ethnic backgrounds, you have different geographical, your upbringing comes from different geographical contexts as well. So I'm curious about, what role has that played in your connection with each other, and what challenges? So let me just, Abhijit, you're from India. James,
Yeah.
you're born here in the US. Sammy, you're Lebanese, born in the States, but raised in Greece, right? I'm from Panama. So this is like our community. In fact, we call ourselves the IPC, the International Party Crew. That's a name that was that was coined early on. So I'm curious about how that blend of cultural, the ethnic background and cultural background has impacted your friendship.
I'll say for my part, I don't know if I think every culture historically in general, even here, like the Lebanese community, you'll notice a lot of them intermingle with each other. I'm sure they have, I don't know, I'm just guessing, right? Generalizing, like 70-30, right? 30% non-Middle Eastern maybe would be their non-community friends, right? For the parents, the migrating family. For my part, I traveled so much. I had friends in Greece who were Greek, Iraqi, from the Balkans, right? You had Bosnians, you had Serbians that were living in Greece. I mean, the community in our neighborhood was just different multitude of cultures. So just by virtue, hey, let's pick up basketball or soccer. Everybody was pretty much from somewhere else for the most part. I mean, obviously, let's say 50% of the kids were Greek, the other 50% were literally everyone else, no concentration. So you just kind of grasp the fact that you had to travel, meet, mingle, connect. For my part, I think that's the reason why I've always preferred companions that are open-minded. And for the longest time, by the way, it kind of kicked me in the gut because I was very critical of people here. But then how can you expect anybody who hasn't lived outside of Texas or even moved or seen anything else, like even maybe visited one of the bordering states? That's their magnitude of travel or maybe even cultural exposure. Louisiana has its own culture, if you want to get down to it, in terms of like the US diversity. That's pretty stark different from Texas. So, growing up, very difficult. High school, college, incredibly difficult until I moved back after college and met especially after I met the community that we know here, us. It just sort of dawned on me that I should never have been so critical in my life. It would have made my life a little bit easier. And I should have sought out more expats or folks like me who've lived abroad, who were from here in the US. And I kind of showed quite a few topics. That's for my part anyway.
And I think he talked about the open-mindedness. It's kind of like there are, some people, when you hear about something new, it's interesting to you. You hear about like a different culture, and it's and like Abhijit was mentioning earlier, like kind of a more like an open like cheerleader kind of, like just an acceptance in that sense that I think we all have that sense of curiosity.
You're different,
and openness.
You're cool, let me learn about it. It's got to be really cool because it is different, right? There's that notion of being different makes it even cooler. Let me find out more about it. I think that's just a natural inclination. Oh, sweet, you're from somewhere else. You've got a story to share, right? Without it being that formal. I'm saying that's my mind thinks, but that is like the vibe. Oh, this person's from India. He's from the US, but he lived in Ireland. Oh shoot, really? What was that like? Oh, you've got all these friends, Panamanian. I mean, James is like the colors of Benetton, if you want to get down to it, right? Like he has, seriously, I mean, for my part, I feel like everyone I've met here knew James. So I met you, Abhijit, through you, right? But ultimately it was, again, he knew James already, right? He knew Eduardo already. Yep. Like I feel like there's like the 1 degree. What is that? What is his name?
This is not that.
Kevin Bacon. Yeah. James is Kevin Bacon. Right?
Oh, there we go.
Well, okay.
Oh yeah, don't take that the wrong
ego
way.
go to your head, but yeah, socially.
Don't let it go to you. Abhijit, what about for you? What role does culture have in your relationship with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think acceptance of who you are, where you come from, is such a big part of like starting a friendship, right? Mm-hmm. Where if there are doubts of like, oh, you're not like me, you've not grown up like me, how can I ever be friends like you or with you, right? If that's the starting point, everything is downhill at that point in time, right? You'll never be friends with someone like that, right? But then if you have the acceptance of saying like, oh yeah, this guy didn't grow up here, right? But he went to school here and he lives here and he likes certain things that we also like to do. So like for Sammy and me, we like to play tennis, right? For James and Sammy, it was like, oh, they both spoke Spanish, right? Like, and that you find those common things, right? James and I like debating about any topic, right? And so it's just like, you all come up with a scenario where if as a friend, right, or before you can even call each other a friend, right, if you have like some of these barriers in your mind, never gonna work, right? So I think like what to me what's key is like, I came from a culture where we had broad acceptance of being able to talk to anybody, right? Doesn't matter what skin color, what language, right? Like as long as you can actually communicate, even with hand signals, it's fine. I can actually do something here, right? And I think you find a lot of people, right, who are open to that, but then there are some people who are not, right? It's just not the right time for them to be engaging with you or anybody else, right? Luckily I found these guys and you remember, like, if we played soccer, if we went salsa dancing, right? I mean, it takes some amount of commitment, right? And saying like, okay, let's plan, we're doing this on Friday or Saturday or whatever, right? And you measure how you're investing time, but you also get the response from the other side too, right? Because they're committing their time to it too.
I think all of you, one of the things I admire about the three of you in my relationship with you all is how committed you are to the friendship. I don't think there's been a time, with the exception of maybe like an inconvenience of schedule, that you guys have ever said no to supporting something that was meaningful, right? Or at least there was an acknowledgement of, oh yeah, that's cool. Like you were saying, this acceptance and this support is really important. But we did go out of our way for each other often, to do things. Sammy, you're always hosting things at your house and inviting us over and cooking for us and stuff, right? James always comes early and often. James, you show up for everything. I think you're like, you never let anybody down when it comes to like your attendance. You are faithful.
I feel like that's the one thing I'm good at, is showing up. I'm not so great at cooking or hosting or anything, but I can show up.
You show up. And no, absolutely 100%, and Abhijit, I think what you bring too is you kind of like to bring a little bit of a spark. You throw in a few, you and Sammy both, but I think you definitely like to throw some spicy conversation and challenge. Yeah, you like to challenge a little bit. And although now you live so far away, right? You live in California now. We don't get
No, I'm living in Hawaii apparently.
Okay, of course.
I mean, I think it's cool that every year when they do visit, I mean, the Solanki.
Yeah, that is.
We'll plan something
wonderful.
to kind of keep it alive, and that's the reason why I do the house. We have a house. It just.
Well, we've been doing like last 4 or 5 years. We've been doing New Year's at the same time, same place.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's easier. It doesn't. I mean, well, COVID,
now we have kids, so it's like
it's easier for us. Yeah, I'm glad for COVID for that reason, Abby. Because like, can you imagine if we weren't like, let's go somewhere, like with kids like, oh shit, we can't do that. I mean, like finding nannies on New Year's Eve is like the hardest thing in the world to do. Like anybody worth their salt is out or doesn't want to be working. So
you all get together virtually like this, or how do you guys get
in a broader setup though? In a bigger setup, like the IPC calls that we have.
Okay, right? Well, we haven't done that in.
I mean, usually if it's just us, we may do FaceTime, or we, just like a.
Every now and then, I think when I'm like talking to Abhijit will say, "Hey, let me call James," and he'll call James, and James will answer the call. We'll all chat freely. But do we do anything planned? Not always. I don't think so. Or when Abby, they do visit from time to time. They have the Kansas trips. If I know in advance, we'll always coordinate something. He'll reach out to all of us, so we'll plan something.
More often it is like, now if you have kids, like either the kids want to take over the conversation, right? And say, oh, I want to see everybody, right? Who are you talking to? Are you talking to James? Uncle James? Okay.
So speaking of kids, I'm curious, James, you and I actually are the only single, no kid. We don't have children. So I'm curious about how having married and then have children shifted the relationship between the three of you. How has that evolved since?
I don't think it's
Who got married first?
Abby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Abby got married first, and then they had their civil ceremony, and then they had their ceremony in May here. May of. I'm drawing a bit of a blank right now.
2012, I think.
Yeah, it's 12. Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
My
then
gosh,
you
you've
came
been
to
married
India
that
for the
long?
Indian wedding. You
And
both
then
came
India
to
was
India
in
for the Indian
13.
wedding.
India was in 13. That's right.
Okay.
And
I
that was
I wasn't invited to the India wedding, I don't think.
12,
were.
man.
I was.
yes, you were.
2012. Sorry.
You weren't.
Everybody, all our group was. All our
Yeah.
group.
Were
I know
we?
for a fact. Yeah, and I remember
Oh,
because it was August and we were in France, and Cecile and I forget if we weren't engaged yet. Cecile made the comment, so we're going, right? Like it's November. I was on a client. I just need to get approval. Like, well, I'm going anyway. Like, okay, calm down. Like I didn't say I wasn't going. I just said I need, I can't just, so okay, book it, buy it.
Mhm.
I think we were engaged at the time. We were engaged.
Okay.
We got married- Yeah.
to
No.
go to Abhijit's wedding and
Sorry, no, we weren't. We got engaged in 14. Sorry, we got engaged in 14. So we weren't engaged. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's. I
I
didn't
think
say no.
Sammy's moved everything by a year. I definitely got married in 2012. I know that much.
Yeah, I remember the 2012 as well.
Yeah. So
I thought it was 2013. I don't know why. Like the
no. It was out 20. It was like November.
It was November
2012. I
2012.
think
Yeah.
like you're rolling into 13 at that point in time.
so when
But,
did you have your wedding here in the States?
May
May
2012, right?
2012. Yeah.
Yes, I remember I went to that. I was very proud because I actually had a
Yeah.
sari
I
that
know you
had
did.
for that.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know
don't know
you
if
were
you can.
representing.
You know what, dude?
I
You're right.
was,
Sorry, you're right.
although
You're right.
gotta
I
just tell
proposed
this.
as well. Sorry. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, you're right.
We forgive you, Sammy.
Civil wedding was in January of 13, and then the marriage was like in 14 in France.
Abhijit, I
Yeah.
have to make a small confession now that you're here
Yeah.
on the podcast. So, at your wedding, first of all, I think it was me, Bob and I maybe, and then my
Yeah.
friend Lily that came together. We came late, and Lindsay was about to come into the chapel where everybody was waiting, but we were
Yeah.
wearing
Oh,
like our
yeah.
saris and like fancy, and like people turned around to look at us, and we're like, "Oh no, look at that!"
I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that
Oh.
completely well. Like you guys
Oh.
We were the
chose
only
to wear
ones
an
wearing,
Indian garb.
except for your parents. I think your mom
Yeah.
and your sister were, but they were already seated at the very front. So that was awkward. And then I don't know if you remember, Abhijit, but in the centerpieces of your tables, if you can see right over my shoulder, right there,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have in Hindi and in English the word joy, because I was like, that was my table, and I'm like, I feel like this sign was made for me.
Oh
We
yeah.
were on
That
the
was a
same
It
table
was,
that I thought.
right there.
I took it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Good for you to take. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
pretty
good.
sure it was meant for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yes, I feel like
I
Yeah.
thought we were on the same table.
a weight has
Actually,
lifted off
Valerie.
my shoulder. No, I think you guys were seated. You and Cecile were seated somewhere else. I was with Lexi and Julie and
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Eduardo and Eva.
we were in
No,
the grooms. We were in the groomsmen. I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
I don't
you
remember
guys
who I was sitting. I mean, I remember.
I think you were at our table,
I remember
James.
everyone I was sitting with, but
I think we
Yeah.
were at the singles table. That's why.
probably that's probably right.
You were on that table.
The singles table.
That's usually the table I get assigned to at weddings. Yeah.
But so back to the question though. So how did the friendship evolve once you all started, getting married, finding family, that kind of thing? Or has
I mean,
it?
I think the first step over here was like James moved to Columbus, right, James?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And I
then-
think we were still there in Dallas at that time.
We were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all here. It was actually. I was gonna say that made it easier if you think about it, because he left. So it's just the two. Like in terms of the guys, it's just Abhi and I
Mhm.
were the only guys left in our group, because Ali left soon thereafter, went to do his residency in Arizona. A bunch of other guys were in our group, all kind of parted ways, if you will. And so yeah, you're right.
We had a big female population too, right? Like, I think-
We were the only two
In the
guys.
friend
at one
group?
point.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
bought the
Eduardo-
house,
And
Long
Eduardo.
Lane, I was like, I think it was only the three of us actually, James and Abhi and I. And it's like Valerie,
Yeah.
Julie, Kata, Bhavana,
Lexi,
Lexi, and then there's I'm trying to
Eva.
Eva came. Yeah, Eva was hanging out with us at the time.
Yeah.
Sayaka.
Sayaka,
Oh
right?
my
And then
gosh.
there was, what's her name? The other one, the what was the hijab? Not Manal. I'm drunk.
Haddad?
Oh, Reem.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
yeah.
so
yes, that one. Yes, that individual. Sorry, that
Okay.
person.
James
Yeah,
goes
so
to
James moved away to Columbus,
Yeah.
right? And so that was interesting. I mean, thankfully not for long.
4
About a
years,
year and a
but
half,
yeah.
2 years, right?
It was 3.5 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, it was, but I
Yeah,
was
but
coming
time
back
flies.
regularly, and that's kind of
Yeah.
the thing. We've all kind of, in some ways, invested
That's
Yeah.
right.
in the friendship, even,
Yeah.
you know.
Correct.
I mean, you
um,
did, you came out, we did the jump.
Yeah,
Bachelor
You
party,
went
yeah.
skydiving.
we went
skydiving, yes, that's right.
Right.
We all went
What
skydiving.
reason was what was the reason for
Bachelor
skydiving?
party.
That was Abhijit's bachelor.
Oh, that was your bachelor
Yeah.
party.
The day
Oh.
before the wedding, it was we're in Palo Alto, or the weekend before, I should say.
Yeah.
A few days before the weekend, we were up in Palo Alto. We went up, it was
We're in
Abhijit.
Hollister.
The four of us were in the same plane.
Yeah.
I think the fourth, was Ali
I have the
there?
video. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
so do
send
I.
it to you. You can
I
play
have,
it.
I have the CD
So
still.
you have video
I
of
have
everyone or just video of yourself? Because I have the DVD of
What
myself.
video of like whoever was on our plane?
Oh, okay.
I have the DVD had all of us before the
Mhm.
interview, and then it had it had you individually on the plane.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's
And
right.
then
Our own fault.
the lady was like videotaping us all hanging from the side of the plane, and you see
Yeah.
Abhijit, who's twice the size of his tandem guy, like, and he just sort of lunges,
Oh,
and the guy's trying to hold on to the door. I'm like, okay, like we're going. I guess one flew out,
yeah.
and then you see me, and I had like the 6'7" guy, and I'm like this little peanut. Like I couldn't even like grab anything. He's like, dude, you ain't grabbing this. We're going. I'm saying we're going. And then bam, like it was crazy.
What a bachelor party. All right. So
No, it didn't last long, right? It's like what
minute.
Yeah.
minute fall?
The jump, yeah.
50
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
seconds
so
before-
like sitting in the hangar waiting to get on the plane to do it was like 4 hours, but the jump itself is like a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's
But we had
actually
fun
50
we had
seconds
fun
of
the whole
free fall.
time,
Yeah,
obviously.
it was fun.
It was a great
And
experience.
I still feel, even though we don't keep in touch, like some of the other people that came to the bachelor party, like we felt, you know, a real bond
Yeah.
together
connected.
by the end of it. Yeah.
Well, that's such an adventurous move to do.
I would never have done it anyway. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I
Yeah.
would never
Really?
on my bucket list ever. Yeah.
Look at that, Abhijit. You got them to
Crazy.
do something beyond themselves.
I know, right? It's important in friendships. You got to stretch each other out, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
I just want to take a moment. I know we talked about, or we started to talk about your relationship now that you're married and with kids, but maybe this would be a good opportunity to acknowledge each other for something. So if you had to acknowledge or appreciate one another for something that you've learned, somehow that you were challenged or changed or impacted by what one another did, what you guys did for each other, this might be a great time to do it. I'd love to hear some acknowledgements for each other.
Repeat that again.
Yeah, if you
Like-
could acknowledge or appreciate something about James or
Oh, okay.
Abhijit, for
Yeah, yeah,
example, what would
yeah.
you acknowledge and appreciate? And the same goes for James and Abhijit to acknowledge you.
okay, so who's going first?
Go for
Go
it,
ahead. I think I have my thoughts already. So go ahead. Yeah.
Abhijit. Are you in a rock, paper, scissors this one?
There's
Abhijit,
3
you go
ways.
first.
I choose paper.
I'll go for it.
Oh yeah,
I-
right. Then it's like,
I think-
yeah, right.
Oh my
Even if scissors
goodness.
won and then nobody wins, right?
I think, for my part, I think it's so James is a unique individual. I've never met anybody who will, like, he picks something up, he learns it, you talk to him about it, you ask him about how to approach something, he'll kind of give you the full breakdown of it. Abhijit is the same way. We can talk about any topic, right? Any topic. I'm running, I'm thinking of this, I'm doing this, and there's always ideas being spot out. And it's almost like I'm getting guidance, I'm vetting, I'm talking, I'm getting like independent, educated, academic, experiential feedback from individuals who are also good friends of mine. Who's like, yeah, look, you should do it this way. You're not academic, Sammy. You're not gonna get, like, I get all of that in one bucket, in one conversation, if that makes sense. And yeah, it helps that both accomplished, they're both high achievers in their own right, in their own spheres. And yeah, for me, and I trust them. They're trustworthy individuals, like everything, plus all the experience we've had prior to, like the socializing and everything else that kind of comes into play with that. You build that foundation. The fact that you sort of sit back and sort of approach the conversation independently now, like, okay, this is how I would approach this. And I'm talking to individuals who aren't now just my friends. They're being like truly like advisors, you know what I mean? Like people would pay, people would pay for this kind of guidance, right? That for me is of many things. I'm just also just two things that come out, off the bat.
All right, who's next?
I think James has thoughts ready. James, you wanna-
Okay, yeah. So I did think that like one thing I appreciate about Abhijit, or admire about Abhijit, he's not just that he can talk about anything, it's that he can talk to anyone. I mean, like, I think you drop him in the middle of nowhere, no matter where it is, in 2 weeks, he'll just have this huge number of friends. And he's got this great spirit, this enthusiasm for people, and this really great emotional intelligence. He just really knows how to make people feel good. And he's just, that's kind of something that I admire about him. And one thing I admire about him, but I don't know if any specific examples about this come to mind, but like they don't just tell me what I want to hear. Like, I know that if there's something they think I need to hear, they'll find the moment to say it to me. And I think that's an important thing. I mean, that's at least important to me in friendship. I don't want, just, I want, that feels to me like a more honest form of friendship. And so,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I admire about them as well. Yeah.
Ooh.
All right, so my turn, right? So I'll go with James first, right? I think, and James, probably I've not told you this, right? I'm very likely not told you this, but I had not known people who could listen so well, right? When you're talking to him, right? James has a very keen sense of like listening to what it is that you're saying before he actually opines on whatever it is, right? Hence, you can actually have a debate like where you're not butting and interjecting. And
Even when he's reading the book, by the way.
Sorry?
Even when he's reading a book.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
still
yeah.
here.
He's listening, right?
It's
And I
called
think
spy.
It's a simple thing, very underrated, right? Simple thing that you can do is like, oh, just listen to the person, whoever is talking, right? And it could be all nonsense, even if I was drunk, right? But the fact that someone can actually patiently listen to whatever it is that you have to say, right, and then kind of give you constructive feedback or like actually direct the conversation where it needs to go. I've always found it enjoyable, right? But then I have never told him that, hey, I love the fact that you listen to me, whenever I'm actually talking, right? But not everybody actually spends the time even listening, right? Even as friends, right? Because people have like their own like processing that they're doing, like, oh, what am I listening to? I should just move on to this next thing, right? And I think and for me individually, that's something I am at fault about as well, right? Because I don't listen very well, right? And you learn these things, right? You say like, oh man, like, look, James actually does such a good job, right? Of listening to me and then giving me feedback. And I'm constantly thinking like, oh, I should do a better job, right? So I think, Valerie, you were trying to say like, hey, what have you even learned in the course of your friendship that you can say, I'm thankful for that, right? For me, it's like, hey, be a better listener, right? And with Sammy, James entered on this. Yeah, it's super easy to follow Sammy in an unknown place and still feel you're there with someone and this place is actually going to become very familiar very quickly, right?
What do you mean?
As in like it's not that I'm an introvert or he's an introvert, but he's just a better extrovert, right? And like, folks like me, sometimes it takes like alcohol to actually bring that thing up. He's just like at ground zero, he's like already there. He's like, let's mingle.
He can get the conversations really open really quick,
right?
With a lot of people, yeah.
Right, and that is a skill, right? And he's made like a lot of unfamiliar situations become very familiar very quickly for us, right? When we've hung out or been out, right? And everybody wants a way to actually open a conversation. And the compliment to Sammy is the conversation, right? Like, he knows exactly what to talk about, right?
Yeah.
To get it started.
It's true. Whether
It
we
never gets
acknowledge that or
boring,
not, guys, I feel like it ends up being our orchestra. It is our one of our many symphonies. We go out in the evenings, like somebody initiates, someone gets the story, and someone gets the conversation going, right? Like it's the topic, the initiation, topic, depth, right? And it's it's the full.
Yeah.
It really is. And again, unbeknownst to us, I really feel like it ends up being a like almost like it was well planned, but it isn't. To Abhijit's point, it just ends up happening. So
I think Valerie's experienced this. She's just thinking of a good example right now. Like, when was I hanging out with Sammy when this worked in my favor?
No, I think all of you have brought some really unique things, even to my own life. I think about things that I admire about you all. For example, James, we are a bunch of immigrants for the most part in this group. And sometimes we talk about stuff that may be irrelevant to you, but it never feels like it. It always feels like you get it, you accept it. And not only that, sometimes you challenge it. And I know there's times, I'm sure we've said things that were maybe even offensive or perhaps disrespectful, right? Either about something to do with this country or I don't know. But you have such I think that's that emotional intelligence that Abhijit was talking about, where you can just hear it from the place it's coming from, right? Or at least understand the individuals. We're not saying something, maybe it was out of ignorance or something rather than something specific. So I admire your steadfastness in the face of all of that stuff that we sometimes bring. Sammy, you've given me tons of advice over the years, especially about business. In fact, I credit you. You were one of the first people I reached out to when I wanted to set my own business, because I'm like, where do I even start? Like, what do I do? And I took you out to lunch and you laid it out for me. You made it super easy. So when people say, how do you start a business? How do you do your LLC? And I'm like, you have a Sammy? you need a Sammy. And that made it like, and then Abhijit, you is because we've known each other for so long and it's been a while. Two things. One, I don't know if you remember this, but you helped me set up my first laptop. Like, I don't know if you went with me to buy it, but for sure, like told me where to go on. So you were so generous with your time. And not only that, but you were also one of the more meaningful introductions I had to Indian culture. Because you shared everything with me. You would invite me over when your sister was in town to have several meals, we watched Indian movies together.
You were like an older sister, right? And you're still like that older sister to me.
Yeah,
right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was lovely. So I admire the three of you so much for so many things, not only for me, I'm sure everybody else in our group has similar memories or experiences with each of you. Now, as we start to wrap up this conversation, I also failed to ask you as in the beginning, which I like to ask all my guests, besides the fact that I asked you to be on this podcast, why did you say yes? Like, what had you say yes to this invitation to come talk about your friendship like this?
Curiosity, to be honest with you. I've never recorded one of our normal tabletop conversations, which we have anyway.
Oh yeah.
To me, only I think a little more filtered, thankfully. At least for my part, it was for sure. I think we can all agree.
Valerie, we trust you.
Trust me.
Yeah.
We trust you.
This is the beginning, and soon I'll have a private jet, from all this fame, right? I was just looking for an opportunity. Right? I think this is kind of like what Abhijit said, that if I'm with Sammy, with the three of us, even if it's an unusual, unknown experience, it'll feel fine, So yeah,
you made it work. Cool. Oh, this is wonderful. This is now you have people, you have your attention, and you're on the spot here. If you had to ask each other a question, something that you've been wondering about, whether about anything we've talked about so far or something we have not spoken about, what question do you have for one another?
Sorry, can the question be directed at you?
Yeah. At me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because maybe we should do that series first before we get to each other.
Oh yeah.
You're the one who brought us together.
I remember on the invite it said, please come up with 2 questions. And the only question I could come up with is, did you guys really come up with 2 questions?
I don't really feel like I have anything, because if I ever have a question, I know I'm gonna see James at some point, right? Whether, hey, let's hang out for dinner in a couple, every couple of months, every month, whatever the case may be. But with Abhijit, we talk every month, depending, sometimes longer, sometimes a few times. when we squeeze it in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, questions. So I don't really feel like I have anything at the moment to ask.
Okay.
No, that's why we have questions for Valerie, right? Like that's where
Oh,
I was saying like,
Oh,
let's
okay.
ask
Do you
Valerie
have
a
a question?
question.
I don't know that I
which
have
each
any
of us have.
I think
burning
Abhijit has a
questions.
question. What's your
Of course I
question?
have a
Yes,
question.
let's
I have
hear
more
it.
than
all right,
one
wait.
question for
Let's
you.
hear it, brother. I'm sure it's the
Okay,
same we
yeah.
have in our head. Maybe.
How
maybe.
are things, Valerie? How is the business? I mean, I know you're doing great things. You've been coming out to Berkeley a bunch, right? Failed to visit me, but that's okay because I
Well,
know you're
Berkeley
out
to Palo Alto, isn't that like a 4-hour
Short
drive or
trips.
something?
there.
They're a little
No,
short.
no, it's
It's only
less
2
than an
hours.
hour.
With
Next
all
time
her
I'm in
miles, though, she
Sarah,
could easily
I'll
wing
check.
a weekend trip and just plan a weekend to Palo Alto, hit
Yeah.
the vineyards. Even if you're not a big drinker, you can still have good dining, good experience, countryside.
No, but
Abhijit
tell us
and
what you've been
Lindsay can
doing.
drink while you drive for them. It'd be ideal. I mean, you don't drink
I
yet.
drive.
Yeah, it's the
No.
countryside. Like visiting the vineyards, someone has to drive, and you that doesn't need a driver is somebody who drinks less.
Why would I
We
go
do.
there to go not drink but drive people?
Well, you
That's
don't
what
drink wine
Uber and
anyway. You
Lyft.
get to osmosis. Experience the atmosphere.
I've been to vineyards in Argentina and Chile, and
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
good.
sorry. He's
But
very, I'm sure California's nice and all, but
Mendoza. I'm so sorry.
to briefly
Napa.
answer the question Abhijit posed. I'm doing really well. This is actually a passion project.
Yeah, I know.
This particular conversation. Business wise, I'm happy. I'm doing the stuff I enjoy. I'm good at it. I keep learning new things. And yeah, and I have great friends. I think that's so life is good. Life is very, very good.
that's wonderful.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
a deep and brief answer. We can go into more detail off video, right? When we have more context for it. But we didn't address this, but I'll ask this question in the form of advice, perhaps, because there's probably other men who listen to this podcast who may have the kind of friendships that you guys share, or may not, may have missed out, maybe because life or careers or marriage or anything may have taken them away from the time and energy. So what advice would you give to other men out there who would like to have the kind of a friendship and connection that you three have? I'd like to hear from each of you.
I'll tell you, I think it's a lot more pervasive than you're giving credit. Not to be critical. I have a few mentors I've had at the office that are born, raised 15th, 16th generation Texan, right? Like in this part of the country anyway, that like they do like every twice a year, once a year, or 4 times a year, they have like a guys trip, and they're pretty extreme. 2 of these guys are ex-military, right? That so half their comrades are ex-military, and they've known each other since high school. And they've kept up despite all the changes, divorces or family and whatnot. Every year they do like a trip, and I'm always, whenever we meet up to catch up, it's like, oh yeah, we just got back from our annual guys trip, and we went carabining across canyons, or we went skydiving, because they're all ex-military. They just want to like some crazy stuff, like. So I think a lot of guys do it. I think also what's interesting is that a lot of the people I've met have actually they've been doing it with people they've known since like high school.
Yeah.
I really feel like here anyway, the friends that I've made, I think I only have 2 friends that I keep up with in college in the US. I keep up with nobody from high school. It's only 3 years. And then everyone I met through you. And I have a couple other friends here and there that I met, post college, but that's it. You're like the core of my group of friends that I've kept up with the most.
You're welcome, Sammy.
Yeah.
So no advice, but it sounds like something that you value is activity.
No, I just think it's
together, adventure, make a point,
priority,
something regular. Got it.
You gotta, the advice here is that keep it strong and keep, communicate with your spouse. I know a lot of guys that got married. Yeah, whoever gets married, man. It's like, well, a lot of friends that got married that, the spouse was too curious or didn't really care for it, or wasn't keen on like the guy strip. I know people who are like that. They don't have that. Even our generation, right, which is I guess a newer generation, or let's say our parents' generation. But yeah, it's not as. I think that's probably the bigger challenge. There's that communication, that relationship they have with their significant other.
So communicating with
Yeah.
your spouse, the importance of those friendships and the desire to go and meet with them on a regular basis.
Yeah,
That's a
Okay.
they may
fair
not, they may not like you, right? I'm not saying that that's the
Yeah.
case here, right? My
Yeah.
spouse loves you guys, but point is, there are some that don't really care for their spouse's friends, right? It's just a matter of balancing that out, and that takes work, it takes effort, but it's doable.
Yeah.
That's all I say. Just make the effort.
Okay.
But I do think that that's sort of one thing that has worked for us. I think is that I think that their spouses trust me that if they're going to hang out with James, he's not going to be egging them on to do something that they're not going to like.
Oh yeah.
Right, it's usually the other way
They're like,
around.
oh yeah,
It's usually the
go
other
hang
way
out with
around,
James.
right?
They'll have a good
It's
time.
Abhijit
There's
swiping
no
the app,
concern
right?
at all.
Like-
They're not the least bit worried about what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
James
urge them
is
to
the
do.
safe choice right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that trust helps. I guess what I would say for people that may, I mean, I think it is, like you said, where you end up with friends that you made at a certain time in your life, like high school or college, or for me, yeah, that grad school period, just everything came together, and a lot of what I consider my closest relationships now are like you and Sammy and Abhijit, were from that season of my life.
Mhm.
And it does seem like what it takes to become friends is often a lot more intense than what it takes to stay friends. Like we
Yeah.
have a certain amount of, I think, trust and confidence that even if we don't talk for a few months,
Yeah.
that it's a real friendship.
That's right.
And there are different seasons in life, and so if at some point, yes, I'm aware they have kids, they need to take care of their kids, and so I don't get upset about them taking care of their kids. I know that there'll be times when they have, it's a cycle, and but the friendship will stay solid. I just have that kind of faith in it.
Mm.
I mean, I think that you use a good word, right? Faith's super important, right? I
Yeah.
think like with as much as you trust, you're actually putting your faith in that that thing, right? For me, like I think Valerie, like what I worry about, right? I think what you're like, you introduced how we met through people.
Yeah.
Right. So as long as you're surrounding yourself with people, and you do well-intentioned things, right, you're bound to bump into other good people as well, right? And I'm not characterizing what they do, but I'm just saying like their intentions being good, right? And I feel like maybe our generation of people found it easier because we hung out more outside, talking to people, and not behind a phone, texting people or swiping people, right? So I just feel like, I mean, we are not on the technology paradigm where we were choosing friends on a phone, saying like, oh yeah, I want to be friends with this person, I don't want to be friends
Swipe
with that
left,
person.
swipe right.
Yeah.
For the Outback commercial, I have like 800 friends, and my parents only have 4, and the parents are like out hiking, and then they're out for the evening in gowns and suits and enjoying a dinner together. But I've got 800 friends. And like, right? Like, I love that commercial because
that's
such a
funny.
dynamic,
I like it. Yeah.
such a great dynamic, and one that I don't think people truly appreciate. To Abhijit's point, like this, like human interaction is great. I just feel like the social media generation probably got a little bit cheated to a degree, or are having to work at it right now, or are learning that the hard way. At least for our part,
and it's an interesting thing because now we have young kids. We see them making friends, right? Who they bond with, how they bond, right? How they want to even think about them when they're not around them, right? And then like, oh yeah, I wish I was playing, or I haven't played it with this particular friend. Oh, why do you want that? Oh, because that friend enjoys running, so I want to just run around the park with them, or that person enjoys swinging, or whatever it is, right? And you can tell, like, all of us grew up in a way where we had some people we were interacting with, right? And we were not isolated completely, right? And it's very interesting. Like it's normal to make friends, right? It's normal as a human to actually have other people to talk to, right? But that bond that you form, you don't actually form 100 bonds at the same time, because you have only so much time in your life to actually spend time on it, right? And you say like, okay, these are the ones where I'm actually investing time. But I mean, we were talking about phases of life, right? I bet you the meaningful ones have stuck around.
Mm,
Right? The meaningful bonds are still there,
True.
right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. And I think Sammy and James met this friend of mine, right? So his name is Sachin, right? We went to college together, right? And we all have like a huge WhatsApp group. I never go to WhatsApp, right? I just like
we noticed.
right. And so like infrequently I will check in. I saw a message from him like maybe 3-4 days ago, right? And he's one of those guys, like we've bonded over sports, a lot of sports, right? Formula One, soccer, whatever, right? And there was a time when like we would spend a lot of time cheering or jeering whoever we were supporting, right? And he, the Formula One season started or whatever happened this past month. And like, he's basically, dude, where are you? You haven't pinged me about like how badly my team is doing this year. Like literally, that's the conversation he's expecting. That dude, season started. This dude knows I really like Ferrari, and Ferrari's not having a good season, so he's probably going to be talking about it because. But I'm like, shit, I support McLaren, which is even worse. So what am I going to get? So he basically, sent it over WhatsApp, and I was trying to tell him like, dude, I think we are on iMessage too. So just send me a message on like
that is one of the
platform
biggest
and not
challenges.
WhatsApp.
Like, what venue do you send
platform?
things to? Who do you? Yeah, like.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just like
So confusing. Did they see the
multitude
message at
of-
all? There's always
Oh, yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it sounds like the point is definitely stay in touch
Yeah.
with people and
Face to face is good.
I mean,
face
the
to
way,
face. Yeah.
yeah, the ways you can stay in touch, the options have just kept growing. I mean, we're texting, iMessage, WhatsApp, whatever, FaceTime, whatever, right? So if you want to, you can't have an excuse that you can't stay in touch.
That is
right?
absolutely true.
But I think like it doesn't work when you're starting off,
Yeah.
right?
And
Those-
this
those
is now
very
over
options
years
don't
of
help you
trust.
start a friendship, right?
Yeah.
But they can definitely help you keep one.
Yeah.
Man, on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm so grateful you three said yes, and you were so candid and generous with everything you shared about your friendship and the things that you've learned from each other. Any final words before we wrap up?
Well, I think we didn't ask each other a question that we wanted to ask.
I know we were all over the place. I was like,
Right.
well, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, no.
I said
So
I have
I'll
no
throw this
questions
out,
now.
right? I was like, okay, where are we gonna go on a guy's trip before the year runs out? Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that, and let's make a commitment right now on the air, on whatever medium
Oh,
this
yeah.
is. Right?
You guys
When-
want to do Ireland?
I could do Ireland again. Sure.
Oh shit, he's already done Ireland. That's right. You live there. I
Yeah.
want to do
No.
Ireland.
See, I mean, life
I didn't
is-
see everything in Ireland.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
where I was going.
I
Right.
think y'all should go down south, go to South America.
Argentina is on my bucket list.
Come
Yeah.
on, go to South America or Central
So
America.
if we do that, I can assure you, our spouses want to go. I know Abhijit's wife would want to go
Oh,
to
yeah, yeah.
Argentina. Now she
Yeah.
may do it and
So
make
it's
it
like the
ladies'
idea is
trip.
find somewhere that we want to go that they don't want to. Is that what you're saying? We have
Which
to
is
do?
not very appealing. That's right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, now
or-
all of a
or-
sudden, the
or-
equation became like +3.
If we do Argentina, first off, it's this is their winter autumn break, right?
We can-
we're ending summer right now.
We can
No,
just
but I'm saying-
go our separate ways during the day and then meet back at the hotel, right?
I can
Yeah,
do that.
the kid
I know I can do
dynamic,
that. I
think.
know Cecile will be totally
Yeah.
cool with that.
Yeah.
But I know she hasn't been there either yet. I've been
Yeah.
I've been to Buenos Aires and I've seen parts
Oh
of
wow.
it was a short trip. And I
Yeah.
saw some cousins there. We went for a trip in 2005. I'm game for Mendoza. I'm just saying, like, if we pick a place that our wives are interested in, it'd be more of like, wait a minute, hold the phone. We really want to go there too. So if we do that, they may decide we got to convince them to make it a girls' trip. So
September, October. Let's start with that. Let's start with the
October?
month and then worry about.
I
like,
think that's a good one.
January.
October's a good month. Yes.
September,
Let's do
October.
Ireland. I feel like
All
Ireland.
right, so I'm gonna call a timeout because it sounds like this was
It
more
take too
like
long to make
it's
to
like
make
a
the commitment on
FaceTime
the air.
conversation that y'all need to have and not
Yeah.
airtime on my podcast to decide the trip. But what I
There we
love
go.
about it is that you are demonstrating the commitment that all three of you have made to make sure that you
Yeah.
connect with each other, that you do something that's exciting, that will stretch you all, and then also taking into consideration your spouses and their interests. So thank you so much for modeling everything you just advise other people to do.
All right,
Now,
cool. That was the idea.
yes, so y'all can take that conversation offline. And
Yeah.
final word, anybody? That's not about planning a trip.
We
Abhijit?
love you,
Thanks.
Valerie.
Oh, yes, yes.
I love
Thank
you too.
you
We
Love
love
you too.
you.
for
Thank you
bringing
so
us
much for
together.
organizing. Wonderful experience.
Yes.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much. I love the three of you as well. Thank you all
Yeah.
so much.
Bye,
Have a
brothers.
wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast, Not Quite Strangers. Remember to favorite, like us on your favorite podcast platform. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Cheers.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.